Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's live hangout for teachers. And at this live hangout, the focus is going to be a product that I use in my classroom with my own students, and I've been very impressed with. That product is called Albert.io. That is, a great service that Albert is offering. They've got all kinds of questions. They've got hundreds of questions for each subject, maybe over 1,000 for the AP history subjects, and they are designed on the same model as the stimulus-based questions that we have on the AP Euro, AP US History, and AP World exams. So much so that when I made my guide to multiple choice, I actually used Albert's questions, and then I went back to the College Board questions, and I decided, okay, these guidelines that I've made up for answering the questions on Albert, let me see if they actually work on College Board questions. And they did. And that's the thing that really is difficult for me as an AP teacher, is not just finding questions, but finding questions that are written in the same way as the questions that we get from the College Board. And we know that AP history teachers are always in need of more questions. Also, all kinds of great analytic tools that Will's going to be showing off. So joining me tonight is Will, the co-founder of Albert.io, and he's going to be demoing the features. So Will, tell us just a little bit about yourself and what you'll be doing tonight.
Sure. Good evening, everybody. My name is Will. I'm the co-founder of Albert. A little bit more about me. Back when I was in high school as a classic overachiever, took a lot of AP exams, took a bunch of IBs as well. And I just remember those good old days when you'd go to a Barnes and Noble, you pick up one of those old school Barron's Review books, and you just work your way through those questions and try to get that feedback. But it was really unsatisfying for me as a student because it felt like I wasn't getting the feedback as quickly as I wanted to get it. And so, enter college a few years ago, my co-founder and I essentially started a site that at that time was known as LearnRater. Since then, we've rebranded as Albert. And what Albert does is we are an interactive learning platform that makes a teacher's life easier. What we do is we curate thousands of practice questions that we've written from scratch, and we make it super easy for you to make assessments with your students, differentiate instruction, and really give your students that sort of direct feedback that they need when you might not necessarily have the time on your plate to be able to be working with each individual student. And so at a high level, Albert is kind of your teacher's dream when it comes to having everything you need in one place so that you can really drive your instruction forward with data. And that's what Tom's been able to do with his classrooms in the last few years on Albert.
All right, so Will, let's go ahead and get to the demonstration here. What we want to do, because Albert's got so many tools that sometimes, like when I saw these things for the first time, I was wondering, okay, how do you use this and how do you use that? So Will's going to actually demonstrate how the site works, how you enroll your students, and how you can monitor their progress, how you can assign things. And if you've used Albert, but not in the past year, we did a hangout about a year ago. Some of these tools are new. They're constantly improving the site. And so one of the newer additions is the assignments. And this just keeps getting more and more complex as far as what you can monitor, as far as not only did the student get this question right, but what answer did they get, how many of your students got this, but then also how much time did the student spend on the question. So some really amazing analytics beyond anything I've seen anywhere else. So Will, go ahead and show us what is a teacher, how would a teacher use Albert in their classroom to monitor student progress?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick. Give me 1 second. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Okay, I can see your screen.
Awesome. So let's start at a high level, first of all, just for the teachers that might not be familiar with what Albert is at a high level. What I explained earlier is we make it really easy for you to differentiate instruction, draw content from one place, and simply use that content to drive your instruction. And so there are a few ground principles that we believe at Albert. The first thing is that we don't believe in replacing a teacher. We think that education technology is best applied when you are using it in conjunction with what you already do in your classroom. And so we don't try to replace a teacher, and we really just try to supplement your instruction. And so one of the things that you'll notice on our site is we make it super easy for you to look at the data trends in terms of what's going on in your classrooms. As you can see here, this is going to be one of the data views that I jump into a little bit deeper when I start walking through some core teacher features. But what we really aim to do is we make it super easy for you to get your content all from one place, draw the data insights that you need all from one place, and then really make it simple for you to be able to say, hey, my students are struggling in this area. I need to focus more time in my instruction in this respective area. And so some of the things that we'll go over are just some of the use cases that teachers have had on our site. You can see here a couple pictures of how different teachers have found clever ways to use our site. But it's really just an engaging tool that students and teachers are able to use to drive their student outcomes. And so as I get into this, if at any point there are key questions, I'm happy to stop and answer those questions. And the last thing I want to kind of preface before we get to the very end is we will have a special promo for you guys, everyone that's attending as an educator tonight, just for Tom's fans. So be on the lookout for that towards the last 10, 15 minutes or so of the presentation. But the first thing I want to do is I just want to walk through our subject guide. So when you first get onto Albert, you're going to see a big button that says Explore Content, and you can go into our course library here. And what you'll find is you'll see a breakdown of all of our subjects in our site. What's super cool about Albert is that we cover more than just the APs. We cover everything from college readiness to Common Core to the NGSS science standards. So regardless of whether you only teach histories or your school has initiatives in college readiness and driving those results, we can help support your schools in those ways. We are more than just AP support. But as you access through this course library, you'll see a number of the core AP subject areas. And when you click into one of these respective areas, what you'll find is you'll find a course guide. And so I'm going to go ahead and go into our AP US History course guide here. And the first thing you'll notice right off the bat is that our course curriculum is structured exactly like the standards that are outlined by the College Board. Here you can see on the top, we have period 1 from 1491 to 1607, and it breaks it down from not only the topic level, but also the subtopic level, and it goes even deeper as we get into each respective subtopic area. Something that's unique about Albert is that all of our questions have been written from scratch. And so if you've ever tried to make an assessment, Tom, I'm sure you're confident that it takes you, anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour just to write a couple really good questions. So for our team, we make that super easy for you, and we put it all into one place right here. And so you can literally just click into one of these topic areas and start using our questions as early as right after this Hangout. But what's also cool about our site is that we break down every single question at an individual tag level. So let's say, for example, you want to isolate your practice for something like colonialism. Well, if you did that, you would see all the 45 questions in our bank for just colonialism. And even within that, you could break it down into subtopics like colonial independence, colonial rivalry, as well as revolutionary ideals. And so as you can see here, what Albert makes it super easy for you to do is it makes it easy for you to pick and choose which students are going to study the most. And that's really, really critical, because the old school approach to this was, let me give you guys a pre-diagnostic test. I'm going to run it to the Scantron room. I'm going to kind of do a tally mark of which question was answered the most wrong, and then I'm going to go over that question. But what Albert makes it easy for you to do is it makes it easy for you to differentiate instruction at an individual student level in just a couple clicks. And so what's core to our engine is just the fact that all of our questions are highly aligned to the College Board framework. And I'm going to go ahead and show that right now by going into pre-Columbian native life. And the first thing that you'll notice as I start loading up this page is that you'll notice that we use stimulus-based questions. So here you can see there's a nice stimulus-based question here, in which we have this picture. And we have something along the lines here in which we're asking the student which North American Indian tribe once inhabited these ruins. What's nice about the student experience is that students are able to actually eliminate question choices as they're working through it. So this is a good way for your students to practice process of elimination and just build those sorts of test-taking skills that you try to teach as an educator. But what's most important for the educator is really the depth of our explanations. So a really important thing to take away with respect to our content is just how in-depth our content is. Here you can see we not only break down the correct answer, but we also break down all of the ones that weren't right. And that's super important because sometimes when your students are working through these questions and they're down to the last two choices, it's tough, and it's something in which it'll really help facilitate that light bulb moment when they're able to quickly diagnose, okay, I chose choice C in this case, but I was incorrect, but at least I know directly like why I'm incorrect in this respective area and how it relates with respect to the actual correct answer in this case. What's also nice about our questions is that we detail everything by the direct alignment to the College Board. So here, if you were to look up the College Board framework for historical thinking skills #1, you would essentially find one on analyzing evidence, as you see here, on explaining the relevance of the author's point of view. And this is a consistent experience across our site. And so, as you can see here, we have a ton of questions that teachers can plug and play. You can see that they vary in the types of questions that are being asked. Here you see we have a primary source that we are asked to work through. And so let's go ahead and just see what this explanation would look like. And as you can see, there's that detailed explanation again that breaks down specifically why that choice is right, as well as all the other choices. And so as you can imagine, you're working through the school year, you're super stressed, it's October, and you're just starting to get into your first unit exams. How do you make sure that your students are getting the adequate practice before your tests? Well, the easiest way to do that is with what Tom mentioned earlier, our assignments tool. So something that we offer is a suite of assignment tools that frankly, we've never seen any other provider provide as much customization around as us. And so the first thing I'm going to show you is I'm just going to show you how easy it is to make an assignment on our site. It is as simple as we can do it in the next 2 or 3 minutes with just what we call our assign all feature. So on Albert, when you do get set up as a teacher, what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to assign the first few topics, which are our free topics on our site. So it's going to be pre-Columbian life, native life in the US, as well as Columbian exchange in the US history. And so what you'll want to do is you'll want to click this big green button. And what that will do is it'll take the 48 questions and you can actually just assign it to one of the classrooms that you set up. This is a demo account, and so I don't have a history specific class, but before I kind of show you what you can do when you select an entire class, I want to show you how easy it is for you to differentiate instruction here. Let's say you have peer coaching or peer learning within your classroom, or let's say that you know that there are different students that have different needs in your classrooms. All you need to do is you just need to create an assignment and then pick and choose which students you want to give an assignment. So here you can see I'm selecting which students are getting these particular questions. Then what I do is I just click next. I'm going to go ahead and call this diagnostic. I'm going to set the start date as right now, and then I'll do it as 8 p.m. And then I'll set the
So Will, you're assigning this to some students and not others. It can get that specific.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. And so it's super powerful for multiple reasons. The first reason is, let's say you want to bucket your students in your classroom into different mastery levels, then you can do that with the assignments tool. But the second thing is, let's say you want to give an actual assessment on our site and you want to give 2 different forms. Well, you can just send form 1 to one set of students and then form 2 to another set of students and combat cheating that way. And so there's a ton of implications in terms of what you can do there. But our most common use case really comes down to differentiating instruction. So here you can see that I'm setting this due date for the 9th. I'm going to set it for, let's say my class period starts at 1 p.m. I'm going to set a time limit of 30 minutes, so that would give the student 30 minutes to complete this assignment from the moment that I send it to them. And then you can choose when you want to show the correct answer. So you can either show it after each question, after the assignment's complete, or after the due date has passed. Usually what I personally recommend is this last one, and the reason why is because if it's for an actual assessment, then you want to combat cheating as much as possible. And so this will lock away the questions, answers until after everyone has completed the assignment. And so then the last thing you can do is you can leave a message to your students, like maybe something along the lines of good luck. From there, you just click submit. And even in answering Tom's questions, we just did this at 7:16 right now. We did that in 2 minutes. And so in 2 minutes, we sent an assignment to 7 specific students related to a particular topic area. And what's also super cool is that we integrate fully with Google Classroom. And so this is a new feature that we released this summer that wasn't in our last Hangout, that you now can integrate your Google Classroom and essentially post this assignment link into your Google Classroom. And so it's super easy for you, because just imagine the power of this platform, right? What you have is, maybe you have a Sunday afternoon, it's before the next 9 weeks starts, and you want to outline all of your assessments for your students in one afternoon. You can do that. And it's super, super simple. And so that's pretty much the assignment feature. What it allows you to do is allows you to quickly assign things. You can also pick and choose questions. I'm not going to show that for the sake of time, but that is something that you can do on our site, and you can drag and drop and choose different respective question areas. Well, what I'm going to go into next is I'm going to go into what teachers see from their end from an analytics side. But before I do that, Tom, did you have any questions that came in that I could answer?
I guess just one for me. I'm sure. Do y'all have a tutorial video that we might be able to email out for that feature that you just mentioned, being able to go in and pick and choose individual questions?
Definitely, yeah. So one of the best things on our site is our help section right here in the top. If you ever have any questions, you just go ahead and click that help button. What you'll be redirected to is you'll be directed to this page. If you go ahead and click Getting Started, we have a Getting Started guide for teachers. It includes, within that, there are just step-by-step instructions. There are PDFs that you can download if you're more of a physical paper learner, you want to print it out. We also have videos in here, and we also have just specific product support questions in terms of our assignments. So if you ever have any questions about our assignments, you just go to this product support section, click assignments, and we have a ton of readmes on how do you create an assignment, how do you view your assignment data, export it, all that jazz. And so really detailed instructions, and you should feel more than happy to check out these in terms of the sorts of things that we show here. Great. So if there are no other questions, then I want to jump into what the classroom analytics tools are. And so one of the things that I find in talking to educators about, what makes ed tech effective and what makes it ineffective is the ability to hold students accountable to actually using it. And so with that sort of core idea in mind, when we designed our assignments tools, we wanted to make it super easy for A, teachers to see how students are doing on our site, and B, for admins to see how teachers are doing on our site. And so we offer both analytics suites for both teachers and administrators to see what's going on at a classroom and a school level. So in this dummy classroom here, you'll see the overall overview of the breakdown of student performance. And so here you can see my students are bucketed by struggling, passing, proficient, excelling, and mastery. And what's really nice about this is that you can actually click into any of these students and see their respective performance on the site. So I'm going to go ahead and
I love the amount of thought that you put into this, Will, with Hermione Granger being on the top end and Harry and Ron are struggling a bit. This is it's classic.
Yeah, we definitely, it was a good fall afternoon a few years ago. We made sure that it reflected the types of students that we felt like they would be. So I'm going to go ahead and load up this classroom here. Let's see. All right. So if I click into Hermione Granger here. All right. So we loaded up Hermione. This is the student overview. And this is super powerful because A, I haven't done any old school sort of, aggregation of data. It's all done for me in one place. And B, it's super detailed. So here you can see a breakdown of all the questions that Hermione's answered on Albert, all of the time that she spent on the site, her overall accuracy. Obviously, she's a whiz kid, and so she's only spent 8 minutes, but she's still rocking an 85% accuracy. And you can also see things like her accuracy over time, her time spent on the site, and you can actually scope when the student was on the site. So let's say you wanted to see how they did in the last week. You could actually go for that respective timeline. And so it's super powerful in that regard because you can pick and choose. And we also provide breakdowns of how the student is doing on all the assignments that you've given them. And so if, for example, you had set up all of your assignments for your students, like I just kind of showed you with the Assign All feature, then you would be able to see this breakdown of how Hermione's done on those respective assignments. So here you can see actually the assignment that I just created, diagnostic. It's scheduled for 10/5. But you can also see the 2 assignments that Hermione's completed previously. So you can see her Potions 101 intro quiz, as well as her quiz 2. If I click into Potions 101 intro quiz, I'm going to have a breakdown of how much time Hermione spent on every single question, as well as whether she got it right or wrong. So this is super powerful and something that is very valuable for an educator, because if you have a student-teacher conference, or if you're working one-on-one with a student after school, you can literally just pull up their Albert assignment and work side by side with them and working through their respective pain points. And what's nice is that all these links are actually going right back to the question. And so here you can see I can go directly back to that question. And so it's really nice for you when you're working with a student to isolate for that sort of behavior. It's also nice for you to just monitor their progress over time. And what we also do is we provide breakdowns of what topics your students are doing really well in, and where they're also needing improvement. So here you can see Hermione's best topics are in growth and dynamic homeostasis in this case, in the science class, and then her toughest subjects tend to be in evolution, diversity, life, and some other topic areas as well. And so it's a nice way for you to pull it all into one place at an individual student level. But what's also most powerful is the power of our assignments tool when you really start using them. So when you do this thing like I did with Quick Assign, or if you use a template, what happens is we pull all that data for you and we make it super easy for you to grade. So I'm going to go ahead and click into this Potions 101 quiz. And this is going to be a breakdown of what an assignment looks like, an assignment report looks like on our site. We have a breakdown of every single student who was given this assignment, how they scored on the assignment. You have a breakdown of all of the questions that were sent to students, as well as which questions caused the students the biggest pain points. So let's imagine, it's 2 minutes before the bell. You want to go over specifically which question was most frequently missed last night. You can just project out this question on polypeptides, because you can see that there's the most red here. And so within a second or so, you can quickly diagnose for where your students need the most help. And all this is done for you. And so you don't have to do any grading. It's all done for you. And you can export these into your own desired formats if you have your own LMS within your school, or whatever grading system that you prefer using. And so assignments make it super easy for you to just pull it all into one place. And it's something that really brings down the amount of prep time that you need for your classrooms in order to draw data-driven decisions when it comes to what to go over next. And so I've heard of cases in which, like I said earlier, an educator just spends a Sunday afternoon planning out all of their assignments, and then they just it's automatic. They don't need to do anything aside from just look at the actual results from students. And so this is something that's super cool on our site, is our assignments tool. What we also provide is we provide a suite of analytics tools for insights. And so if you ever do want to see how a student does, or how your classroom is doing in a particular topic area, you can just create a report real quick. Notice how everything's super zippy on our site. I just clicked create report once, and within a second I have a detailed report of my student performances on this respective topic area. I can also isolate by questions again. And so it's just super simple. And that's what I think is most important. Going back to why I think ed tech doesn't work with some educators, I think that some people just face the fact that it's really hard for them. And so we try to make it as simple as possible to be able to quickly see, just look for the reds, look for the greens, and kind of draw from that. And so our assignments tool is a really powerful way to pull everything together in terms of your content and get it going for your students. And so before I kind of break for, see if you have any questions before I go into something else, I can show you the templates next if you're interested in seeing how teachers can kind of pick and choose questions. But I can also go into the admin side, or some of the other attributes of the site that you might be curious for your fans to check out, Tom. You just let me know.
Okay. And yeah, are you ready for a few questions, Will?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, yeah, we've got a few. Now, one thing, I love this amount of time per question thing, because I know in some subjects they might be able to answer very quickly, but with this, with AP history, if they're spending like 12, 15 seconds a question or something, we know something's up. So, I mean, I just love how this thing's set up to monitor behavior. Now, as far as this goes, Lisa wants to know, if you were testing in class and have multiple classes, is the screenshot option disabled? So Will, is there any kind of situation where they Like, are there some teachers that use this in the classroom as far as, to assess students within a classroom setting rather than, for practice outside of class?
Yeah, there we work with a number of schools that are one-to-one schools, and so that is definitely, that's definitely a use case that we're used to. So in terms of the screenshot functionality, you can't disable the screenshot functionality since that's a built-in attribute of both operating systems, both Windows and Mac. But the way that you can combat that is simply with typically a time limit. So if you're setting a due time within a class period, your students will have to, obviously answer the questions. And that's where that time that you're referencing, Tom, is super important, because if you see a student that's only spending 1 second on each question and getting 100%, I mean, either that student is just way smarter than all of us combined, or something is up. And so in terms of ways to combat that, there's definitely different ways that you can do that. But we are definitely used in the classroom on a regular basis. Like I kind of showed you on this schools page, we can kind of read about some of the ways that students have been using Albert. So here you can see some AP Calc students were in this school's library lab, computer lab, working on questions. We have in this school, we have progress weekly in terms of friendly competition with neighboring schools. So they have a small community of Albert schools, and so they keep a leaderboard going. This classroom I really love. This classroom, what they do is they take small whiteboards, or they take their binders and essentially are debating which question choice is right on different questions. And so what they do is they project the question onto the screen, and then they really reason through how to get to the best possible choice. And so there's a lot of different use cases with respect to these. So you have these cases where you have an instructor going through the question on the board, but you also have cases where it's a one-to-one school like this one. And so you can see here, it looks like the students are using it for their iPads, and they're using it to study in respective subject areas. And so there are definitely multiple use cases and definitely different ways that you can kind of combat any potential cheating that might occur with your students.
Okay, and Susan is asking, if a student self-corrects an answer, will that be reflected in their accuracy stats? So how would we see if they're able to do it more than once? Did they get it right the first time? Did they go back and correct it? How's that going to look in the analytics?
Yeah, that's a great question, Susan. So one of the things that we do is we allow you to pull that insights tool. And so when you go into insights, you can actually pull for first and second attempts. Something that we're building in based off of teacher feedback is we have heard the request for that sort of retake feature that would allow you to just keep giving your student more than one attempt. But here you can see, if I'm in the insights tool, I can actually pick if I want the first attempt, the best attempt, or a custom attempt. So I can actually choose, for example, that I want attempt number 2 on all questions. And what that'll show me is it'll just show me the student's performance on attempt number 2. So what's the use case for this? Well, the most common one that I hear is some teachers, we work with over 1,000 schools and districts at this point. And so those licensed schools, what they do is they will do things throughout the school year, because we believe in fostering the study habit early on in the school year, so that it builds the stamina and the student confidence for the end of the school year. And so they'll use the initial half of the year for the first exposure to the questions, and at the very end, as they near the AP season, what they then do is they revamp it so that they're used custom templates. They use the questions once more, and then they gauge on the second attempt or the third attempt on students to see how students progressed over time.
All right, and Will, another question. This one is from, let's see, this one is from Nanette. And what are the credentials of the question writers? Now, one thing I was talking about at the beginning of this Hangout, Will, is how I went onto the site and I was kind of skeptical, because I know that a lot of times you have the textbook, companies, they'll put out things and they'll say, oh, this page is a line of this and a line of this, and they'll put out questions and you don't know where they came from. And the Albert questions, I went and I did them, and I was like, how is this I came up with rules, and then I went to the real AP questions, and those rules worked that I developed from Albert. But I think it's still a great question. Is there a threshold, as far as what type of person does somebody have to be? What type of experience does someone have to have for Albert to contract with them?
Yeah, absolutely. So we work with several hundred educators, and all of our content teams within each respective subject area on our site is thoroughly peer reviewed. And so what you get the benefit of when you use our site is you get a team that are either, really highly experienced AP table leaders, graders. We've had a number of, just veterans who have been teaching the subject for decades. And so we have PhDs as well on the team, and all of them combined create this sort of mastermind group, right? And what the mastermind group allows them to do is really just peer review really intensely. And so when you look at these questions on our site, so here I've shifted gears to AP World History. So right now, if you look here, we've got 17, 36, and 73. So, that's over 120 questions or so, give or take. And just at those questions alone, each one of those questions has gone through at least an hour of work. Like, the difference between using us versus any other publisher or even your own content is that we have, at this point, had students answer over 75 million questions on our site. And so every year, come past the spring, we assess our questions and we look at which ones are too easy, which ones are too hard, and we revise based on not just the experts' feedback, but what the actual data shows us in terms of how students are performing on these respective questions. And so in terms of credentials, they're all highly experts with respect to each respective topic area. In many regards, we've had feedback very similar to yours, Tom, in the sense of we've had people that, go ahead and do a direct comparison, or they ask their students for feedback and their students tell them, that Albert questions were actually harder than the real thing. And so I think that's a testament to our content quality. When we started out, we were purely focused on the content. All these data tools that we're showing you right now have come out in the last year and a half alone. We focused our first few years of building our site just purely on content, and that remains a staple. And so if you ever have any concerns about our content, I'll actually show you exactly what you can do. You can go ahead and go into any of our questions, and in the bottom corner, there is a button where you can submit for feedback. So I go ahead and load
And Will, I'm just going to note while you're finding that, I use that feature, I wouldn't say like all the time or quite a bit, because I use it kind of rarely, because, your questions tend to be good. But there are times when I'm, going over something with my students, or I'm working with a tutoring client or something like that. And I say, you know what, I wasn't that crazy about that question or this particular answer. So yeah, go ahead and show everybody that, because when you mention that peer review process, it's not like, they peer review it and then it's out there. But if a teacher that's using this site doesn't like a certain question or something about it, you can just you can do that, and that goes to Albert, and they can reevaluate that question based on the feedback that they're getting. And so this site from I think I was exposed. It was back when it was Learnerator about 3 or 4 years ago, and the site just continues to improve, which is one of the reasons that I promote it, because it works, and I don't like to just promote things for the sake of promoting them. So this is something that is a great feature. So Will, how would somebody use this if they've got a concern about a question?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the bottom left corner of every single one of our questions is a submit question feedback button. If you find a typo, an inaccuracy, an image, formatting, or general suggestion, you can feel free to just write us a message. That'll get sent over to our content team. So on top of that team of experts that we've recruited and vetted, we also have a full-time house, a team of content experts who essentially are working with the educators to make sure that we're aligned to the curriculum standards and that we're catching these sorts of errors that happen. Because naturally, we're all humans at the end of the day. It's not possible that you're going to always find an immaculate sort of thing. But what's nice about our site is that you do get to give that feedback to us as well, and you'll get a response from us. It's not uncommon for an educator to be like, hey, you guys should check out these questions, or hey, I heard through the grapevine that this change is coming up in the AP, and so you guys will want to kind of reevaluate these things. We take all that feedback very seriously. If you ever want to talk to our content team, or you have any concerns with respect to the content team's email is content@albert.io. Again, we have a full-time staff of former educators as well as PhDs in-house that are working with the experts that we already have vetted as well. And so when you just think about it, it's just having as many expert eyes on it as possible, which makes it so that the content quality really stands out. And I think like the biggest thing that I can say with respect to proving it to you is if you go on our site, right after this Hangout and you click into your subject area and you just play around, you can tell within the first, 2 or 3 minutes of answering a few of these questions just how different we are when it comes to explanations. No other provider provides the detail that we provide with respect to explanations. If you open up an old school Barron's or Princeton review book, you're going to get about these 3 sentences, but nothing more past that. If you try something, else out there as well, you might get a couple hints, but you won't get the sort of depth that we really go into. And so this is really one of our core staples of our value add to the educator, is really making it easy for your students to understand why they're getting things right and why they're getting things wrong.
All right. Well, let's see. Now, I've got a follow-up question from Lisa. This feedback mechanism, is this something that's only available to teachers, or are students able to fill this out as well if they have a concern?
Yeah, students are more than happy to submit that feedback function. We do, aside from just servicing schools and districts, we do service a lot of individual students as well. And so students are more than welcome to submit their own feedback as well. All of the feedback is taken into consideration. In fact, the other thing that you can do on our site is you can actually tell us if the question was helpful or not. So what we do in our back end is we aggregate this statistic. And so what it'll tell us is all these times that students are answering the questions, it'll tell us how many thumbs up and thumbs down there were. And so it's really nice because in the case where, if we need to go through a lot of questions that might be skewed in terms of this distribution, then it quickly gives us another way to look at that. What's also nice that I didn't mention earlier when I was going through questions is that we do break down how others answered the question. And so this is a nice way for your students to see how students around the world are answering the same exact question. And so that can be a fun way to make it a little bit more interesting than just working through questions.
Yeah, and I think I've found that useful, especially with my tutoring clients, going through, and sometimes during a session we're just going through Albert, and when I go through, I look at this and I ask, okay, if this is something where they didn't get B, that's a problem. But then there may be some questions where you see, okay, well, a lot of people did this, and this is probably the second best answer. Don't beat yourself too much, up too much over this. So I mean, this is that's one of the best things for me as far as just everyday usefulness, is having that feature where I can see, how did other people do on this? How obvious should this answer have been?
Exactly.
All right, and so Will, let me see what if I've got anything else here. It looks like these are all of the questions. If anybody's got any last-minute questions, go ahead and. Oh, okay. Looks like I've got something here. Oh, oops! I just went to something else on accident. Okay. Let's see. Are you okay? Will, are there any intentions on the part of Albert to expand to like end of course test prep? I know y'all focus a lot on like AP and stuff like that, but a lot of states have end of course test in U.S. history. Is that anything that do y'all have anything in the works for that, or what are the plans for Albert expanding into other subjects right now, if any?
Yeah, that's a great question. So our strategic priority for this year is really around the Common Core and next generation science standards. So one of the things, if you go to our site and click schools and then go into content, you can read up about specifically what's unique about each of our core domain areas. So you can see within the APs, we have about 28,000 practice questions. We also do have FRQs that I didn't show earlier. And what we're coming out with this year are full-length practice exams. So these are going to be the next big feature for the APs. It's going to be the ability to administer full-length practice exams and get all of that graded for you as well. And so you can see some of the core features here for each of these respective product lines. I went over most of these, but our big focus right now is what we call foundations. And so foundations is kind of a huge movement because we believe that looking at the overall landscape for what other ed tech vendors provide, that there are just core kind of approaches to pedagogy that are not being addressed. And so what we spent the last year working on is a series of products that service on building students' reading comprehension skills, grammar skills, as well as their math skills. And so we've been launching these respective topic areas throughout this fall, and we'll continue to do so throughout this school year. And so this has been our key strategic area, has been in foundations and in NGSS. And so what's powerful about this is that it really makes it so that Albert is really more than just an AP site. At the end of the day, we support programs in terms of all of their interactive learning needs and rolling it all into one place. So it makes it so that you have data in one place. It makes it so that if you are from a school with a tight budget, that you can essentially, consolidate into one platform. And it makes it so that you can trust one singular source. And so our biggest focuses right now are in these NGSS and foundations areas. It's an area that we're super excited about. But that being said, we definitely are, always looking towards future expansions in other subject areas. If you have any kind of needs in place, then you can feel free to look into our subjects guide and just click around. So here you can see in our humanities, for example, if you have any friends who are English teachers, we have over 75 literary works that we cover as well. And so we aim to cover all of the core foundational pieces that a 9 through 12 school would be covering. And then the next kind of phase for us is going to be going into middle school. And so we're working our way into that though. But right now we're really focusing on what we call these foundations right here.
Okay, now, Will, thanks very much for taking a little time to share the site with us. Let's discuss, as far as what are options for affordability for an individual teacher, and just as far as that goes, you said you had a promo that you could share with everybody. So if somebody's thinking, hey, I'd like to use this in my classroom, not sure I can afford it, what do you have to say to that before we wrap up?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So first thing I want to note is we are very transparent on pricing. If you ever have any concerns on that, it's in our header. So you can see how I just clicked that pricing button in the top corner. So I'm going to outline all of our options, and I'm going to throw out there 2 options that you can do as your next key takeaway after this Hangout to get started on Albert. So the first thing is that you can do what a lot of students do, which is you can buy an individual subscription to a respective subject. So typically our APs come in at $39 for a 10-month subscription. And so that'll give you full access to all the questions and the detailed explanations. That's for your individual account though. So you won't be able to take advantage of all those assignment tools or have your students all enroll into your classrooms. And so that's really where our institutional licensing comes into play. And so as a teacher, if you are teaching a classroom, you have 2 classroom options that you can get into. It's either for up to 40 students or 100 students in a single subject area. And the other option that is most popular is really with our schools. And so we work with a little over 1,000 schools or so and districts. And what they do is they will unlock the entire course library. And so the standard on the left-hand side here is all the APs. And then the ultimate is the APs as well as college readiness and Common Core. And so the reasons why this is super cost effective is because if you have just a couple hundred students, it works out to less than $10 per student for the entire school year in multiple subjects. So a lot of schools will pull from different department funds, and they'll essentially save more than 75% compared to what the normal retail price is. In terms of the action items that you guys can do, so something that's really cool this fall, and only this fall, is we've partnered with Donors Choose, which is a crowdfunding site for a lot of public schools. And so if you are a part of a public school and you go ahead and go on Donors Choose and look up their match offers, we have a live offer for online test prep projects. And so if you go on Donors Choose and you can't afford, your own individual small or big classroom on your own, then what you can do is you can set up a project on Donors Choose, and we have a donor that has essentially decided to give a $1-to-$1 match. And so you would essentially get Albert for 50% off for the classroom. And so this is an offer that I literally just talked to Donors Choose, on Monday of this week, and it's more than halfway already gone. And so I give it probably another few weeks or so before it runs out. But this is something that a lot of educators are taking advantage of for this fall, if you have an individual classroom. So the first recommendation would be, if you're looking at it just for your classroom, check that out, because it's a great way to try it out and see how it goes with your students. The second thing is, if you are part of a school with more than 75 AP students, then we highly encourage you to join us for our pilot program. And so this year we have been admitting a select group of schools that we feel are good fits with respect to their technology platforms, in terms of their school cultures and just the direction of their programs. And so if you email pilots@albert.io, that's Pilots at albert.io, and just say, hey, I heard about you guys from the Tom Richey Hangout, and you include your school's information in terms of just its name, the city, the state, as well as the overall student population, as well as the best contact information, then what our team will do is we will reach out to you in terms of getting a pilot set up for the next few weeks, so that you can try our entire site out with all of your students at your school. And so these are the two kind of options that you can go coming out of this. You can either just set up a Donors Choose account and start funding your project today, or you can shoot us an email at pilots@albert.io, and we'll make sure to see if it's a good fit and go from there in terms of different options.
All right. Well, Will, thank you very much. Let me just make sure, as far as we've got on this. Let's see, like practicing the test on paper. They love Albert. Okay, yeah, Lisa's class loves Albert. How close is the College Board to moving to digital AP testing? Wow, that's I don't know if anybody quite would know the answer to that question. Will, do you hear any rumors about that?
You know, we went to the AP conference this past summer, and there were no reports of it being digitized. But what we have heard is that part of their move is they are streamlining the process for registration, and so it seems like they would be sticking to paper for at least a few more years. But there hasn't been any rumors with respect to digitizing it yet.
All right. Well, as far as that goes, let's see what we've got here. And yes, all the questions you offer align with, yeah, let's see. So yeah, Nanette's got another question about about the standards, which, of course, yeah, the AP Euro exam has changed a good bit, but having done it myself, Nanette, I've seen that they do have them updated to the new standards. Now, as far as this year, AP Euro has only added like one thing or maybe two things as far as nationalism. But other than that, it's pretty much the same thing as it has been for the last 3 years. I've seen Albert constantly evolving. Now, the other thing is, Will, correct me if I'm wrong here, but an individual teacher or, an individual has like a certain amount of like free tries at a question, don't they? Aren't there a certain amount of questions that somebody can complete for free?
Yeah, absolutely. So something I'll show you, I'm going to log out of this account real quick. If you, right after this Hangout, want to go onto albert.io, just go ahead and click the sign up button. Say I'm a teacher, create your account. And when you create your account, you'll essentially have full access to the first few topic areas in each subject area. So I'm going to go ahead and click into AP Euro since we're talking about it. And what you'll see here is anything with an unlock button is going to be something that you have full access to as a free teacher. So you're more than welcome to go ahead and get set up on our site. A lot of teachers just do this to start out. And so they will create a free account, they'll invite their students, or they'll integrate their Google Classroom, and all their students will then just be
now one thing, Will, I want to go ahead and note while you've got that screenshot up there is we can already see, like, just looking at this, like, I'm thinking about the key concept, the key concept 1.1, 1.2, that sort of thing. The way that you've got this organized is the same thing, the classical text, printing press, the arts, going into the scientific revolution. information, which you have, in this, because it's all part of that key concept 1.1. So, we can, eyeball this and already see that working. But yes, Nanette, I would say the best thing here would be just to try this for yourself, because that's what I did. I just got on there, started playing around with it, and thought like, wow, okay. And then when they made the improvements for the analytics, I was just blown away all over again. But yeah, so this stuff here is completely free for anybody that is wondering, like, hey, would this be something that would be worth it for me?
Yeah, and if you have any questions with respect to any of the features that we've detailed today, you're more than happy to go ahead and go to this schools page. Just click request a demo. Just click this green button here, and then we can sync up with you guys in terms of having a conference. It'll just be a one-on-one meeting via web conference, and we're more than happy to walk you through any particular questions that you guys have with respect to how to use Albert in your classroom or at your school.
Okay, and yes, Nanette, I would definitely say this thing has come a long way since it was Learnerator. You can see it wasn't just an aesthetic change that they made here. I mean, this is definitely a lot more advanced. And I think, because I was wondering, I was like, Learnerator's an established brand. Why are they rebranding? I was like, this is, I was like, these people are crazy. Will, I didn't really know you back then, but the thing is, I mean, I can see now. I mean, it was definitely justifiable, because this is definitely a more advanced product here. Now, Will, just one last question here from Miss Wasserman. The free response, can you just show us that real quick? And she's assuming that a teacher would hand grade this, but maybe you've given some guidelines.
Yep, exactly. So the free response questions are located in our subject guides as the second tab here. These are just like our questions originally written. They're not sourced from anywhere else. And so I'm going to have to log in back into my demo account because I need full access here. But once I go and do that, you'll notice that there is that document, these series of documents. And then what we do is we provide a sample response as well as the grading rubric for how the student would be assessed with respect to this DBQ. And so what the most common use cases are with respect to what we've heard from students and teachers is two things. Either we have a teacher who will project the sample response onto the board and work through it with their students, or they will first show the prompt. They will work through that in one class period, and then in the follow-up class period, they'll walk through the sample response together and do some peer grading. What we believe is most important is really just having a student familiarize themselves with what the rubric is, because we have found that just in talking with enough programs, that where programs struggle the most and where they can pick up the most points is really by just helping their students better understand the rubric and how their students are going to be assessed. It's not necessarily a question of whether or not their students know it. It's just a question of whether or not their students know that they have to write this particular thing to get points for it. And so that's really the emphasis behind the DBQs on our site. Something we are exploring for the future and to kind of keep your eyes on as well is we are exploring different ways in which students could input responses as well, and then the teacher would be able to grade from just our platform itself. But for right now, we aren't too focused on that, since we do have pretty serviceable FRQs and DBQs as of today.
All right. Well, excellent, excellent. Let me just take one quick last look here, and let's see. Now, as far as using it in my class, I'm actually going to be doing something tomorrow. As far as in the past, I've done test corrections where they have like a thing. They have a certain amount of stuff they've got to write down. Tomorrow, actually, I'm going to unveil Albert with some of my APUSH students, as a remediation tool, because there are some of them. Like, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use Albert, and they're going to do this in my classroom after school for extra credit. But then again, if they weren't there, they can document how much time they spent on something as well. But I'm going to put some questions out there for them on the Columbian Exchange and the Colonial Encounter, and that way they can do some things, and it's going to help me drive the remediation, because the thing is, if I'm looking at a Scantron or something like that, I can't tally up all that stuff by myself. And so so, a lot of these students, that are more, advanced, the ones that are doing well anyway, this is something that will be, optional. Now, there will be some Albert assignments that I will assign. And the thing is, I can tell which students have done them. And a lot of times when I assign Albert, I assign it for completion, partly because I don't want students to have any incentive to cheat. So if I'm just saying, like, look, I've got some stuff here on Albert, and this is being graded, this is due on this day, and it's being graded for completion, then I tend to get, more accurate responses. I don't have to worry about, people putting pressure on kids. They're doing this for a grade or something like that. So for me, it's really about getting access to these analytic tools, and being able to see right there, okay, what did people do? Which, some things like, I can do a quiz on Canvas and it can tell me, which students got something wrong, what percentage got it right, who did this answer, but there are no answer explanations. And I think that, this is, as far as just an all around, great tool for the kids and for the teacher to really monitor stuff. I think that's great. But I think what I'm going to be doing this year, and I keep evolving how I'm using it, is to have a certain amount of assignments that everybody completes, and then a certain amount of assignments that are going to be for, some extra credit or remediation, because I'm really trying to create an environment where my more advanced students don't get like more work put on them, but the ones that are struggling, that they have some opportunities to encounter the content again, because that's, for me, that's the biggest thing. The more students can encounter the content, the better that they can do. So
Yeah.
with that, oh, go ahead, Will. Did you have something?
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is, this is the first time I've seen it in a couple of days, but the other thing is there really is no reason this fall that you should not try us out. And the reason why is because with this Donors Choose match offer, even if you don't have the backing of your admin, you can start a project on Donors Choose. And you can see here, there's 55 different classrooms right now that are already starting their projects. We've already fulfilled over 100 of these on Donors Choose. And so it's something in which, with this sort of generous donor that's already decided to match dollar for dollar because he recognized the power of our platform as well, it's really as risk-free as it can get with respect to trying something out, trying something new, seeing if it works with your students, and just driving your instruction to a whole new level with respect to bringing it to the 21st century with your students. And so I would really encourage you guys, if you're looking at bringing a classroom on, or if you're looking to bring your school on, again, either set it up on a Donors Choose project or email us at pilots@albert.io, and we can get you guys going.
All right. Well, excellent. Well, Will, it sounds like lots of options for affordability, for trying it out, for piloting. Will, thank you very much for joining us. Will, can you unshare your screen real quick so that, people who joined us later might be able to see you?
Sure.
All right. Yeah, there's Will. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again for having me.
Okay, and also Will and I have talked about possibly doing a more student-oriented hangout sometime in the spring. So you might see us again. We wanted to offer something to teachers, but of course Will's company also reaches out to students as well. So you probably haven't seen the last of us doing these broadcasts together. So again, thank you very much, Will from Albert IO, and be sure to check out the product and be in touch with me if you have any questions. And of course, this will be archived so that people can see it later. It's always a pleasure.